Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to Daybreak on Trust Television. I am Sunday Michael Ogu.
It's a beautiful morning here indeed. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Zainab Bala.
It's a beautiful morning in the capital city with mixed feelings, of course. We've been battling fuel scarcity now for nearly 4 weeks or more. First, it started with complaints around Lokoja, and Lokoja had receded, and the situation doesn't seem to go away. And now we woke up with all kinds of security alert from all kinds of embassies in the city that had thrown households, into some kind of palpable fears. Shopping malls of notes, are now shutting down in the Federal Capital Territory. And the Nigerian government just basically said, go about your normal activities. I mean, even at that, it's not enough for people to feel easy, is it?
Well, it seems like, as they say, Nigerians are happy people. Everybody's just going about their daily businesses, and they're saying, well, if it happens, fine, because of, the assurance that was given to us, by the Nigerian police.
Absolutely. I driving away from the office yesterday, I saw a number of nice spots bubbling, and I was saying to myself, do these guys operate within this country, or they have a different assurance? But all the same, we continue to hope for the best. We continue to count on the assurances of our own authorities to guarantee the lives, the peace and security, especially of our capital city and all of the states where we appear to be in some form of, that we have seen some form of security alert concerning the likely plans of some elements to distract the peace of this environment. We move on to the headlines this morning. Flood submerges houses, schools in Delta, disrupts learning.
2023, Atiku takes presidential campaign to the U.S.
And the NNPC Daewoo Group signed MOU to fix Kaduna refinery.
The news in detail. Flood has submerged houses and schools in many communities across Delta State, displacing several residents and disrupting academic activities. Primary, secondary, and tertiary schools were affected by the flood. Some of these schools sacked by the flood include Ovre Primary School, Ofagbe Technical High School, and Igbide Community School in Isuku South local government area. The flood did not spare schools in communities on the Patani and Bomadi. Houses were also submerged in Ndokwa East local government area councils. Daily Trust learned that many of the flood victims had relocated to safe abodes. The state government had established internally displaced persons camps across the state and provided relief materials for the flood victims. The council chairman of Ndokwa East local government area, Joan Governor, disclosed that a total of over 10,000 households across impacted communities in the locality were displaced by the current ravaging flood. The chairman, who disclosed this in his regular flood impact summary on Wednesday, said all the farmlands in the locality were devastated beyond remedy. Roads and other critical infrastructural facilities, including the council secretariat in Abo, were also submerged. The council boss further stated that with the flood, residents will face some new degree of challenges.
And moving on, Atiku Abubakar, presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, has left Nigeria for the United States of America. According to a statement issued by his team, Atiku will spend a week in the U.S., where he would meet with Nigerians and the business community. He would also meet with top Nigerian business leaders based in the U.S. and later with young Nigerian professionals in the diaspora. Among other meetings with some business communities, Atiku had flagged off his electioneering campaign in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State capital 3 weeks ago. It was followed by the Kaduna campaign last Saturday, and had another campaign in Benin, Edo State. In a tentative presidential campaign timetable, Atiku is expected back to the country on Monday, and by Tuesday, November 1, 2022, it will be the turn of Ekiti State, while the campaign rally in Ondo State would hold on Wednesday, November the 2nd.
Nigerian National Petroleum Company NNPC Limited and Daewoo Group of South Korea have signed a memorandum of understanding for the rehabilitation of the Kaduna refinery. President Muhammadu Buhari, who witnessed the signing ceremony on Thursday in Seoul, South Korea, expressed delight over the development. The president, in a statement issued by his spokesman Femi Adesina, was particularly excited as the signing came on the back of ongoing rehabilitation works at Warri Refinery by Daewoo Group, which will, at the first instance, deliver fuel production before the first half of 2023.
Because Daewoo Group has massive investments in the automobile, maritime, and other sectors of our economy. And the president said he's also aware that Daewoo is currently engaged in the execution of the NLNG Train 7 project, as well as the construction of a sea-going LPG vessel for NNPC and her partners. He said he looked forward to the delivery of the ongoing project, especially at Warri and Kaduna refineries, and the LNG Train 7, stressing that this, no doubt, will open many more windows of opportunity for the Daewoo and other Korean companies in Nigeria. And moving on to our packages now, COC police authorities in Katsina State have raised alarm over increasing rape cases in the state from January this year till date. The police command recorded 198 cases of rape with 207 suspected rapists arrested. Abdullahi Yamadi has details of the report.
The police spokesman SP Gambo Isa explains that while the police command is investigating cases, many suspects have been taken to various courts for prosecution. Similarly, rape cases are also pending at Ministry of Justice for legal advice to facilitate proper prosecution.
It was discovered that part of this country, the northwest region, especially Kano, Katsina Jigawa, are having this alarming rise in cases of rape. Not only rape, but even in abuse of drugs. And that's what we have been doing to see that in collaboration with relevant stakeholders like the traditional institution, the religious leaders. Not only that, even the NGOs like RAPA and some others were working in partnership to see that communities are being sensitized so that the issue of rape and other violent crimes against women and girls have come down in the states.
Teenage pregnancies from the reported rape cases also remain a source of worry for the police, calling on relevant stakeholders to engage parents on the responsibility of ensuring proper parental guidance and control of children. The Federation of International Women Lawyers and the Human Rights Network in Katsina State are concerned about the many frustrated cases of rape by the police operatives.
When you look at what is happening, sometimes we don't know whether it's a psychological problem or a mental problem, or is it that they are taking drugs, or is it that they are using these children for any charm or juju? Because we don't even understand why. A 70, 60, 50-year-old be raping 6, 4, 7-year girl. And when you go to the other side, you see 20-year-old, 17, raping 16, 17, 8, 15 to 17. Probably, maybe at that of I love you, I will marry you. But when you look at the other way, we don't know. But there is a concern, and there should be a research on that issue.
Aggressive media campaigns and quick dispensation of justice, many believe will help in addressing the menace. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
Well, there you go. Now, security experts say security challenges in Nigeria can all be tackled if there is will on the side of the government. The experts believe that if properly equipped, security agencies can end security challenges before the end of the year.
On October 23, 2022, the United States Department of State warned of possible terror attacks in Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory, especially on government buildings, places of worship, schools, and other centers where large crowds gather. It followed the warning on Tuesday with an advisory to United States citizens who are out of Nigeria to reconsider travel on Nigeria due to crime, terrorism, and other civil unrest, among others. Although the federal government has maintained the alert was baseless, security operatives were, however, spotted at the Jabi Lake malls while customers were denied entrance into the mall. Vendors at the mall described the action as demoralizing, as they could not attend to their customers.
We just came this morning and we were denied space for selling our food items. We are calling on government and well-to-do individuals to come to our aid for us to keep food on the table for our families.
They say that they put bomb for the other Lugbe shop, right? So they want to investigate here. So that is the reason.
Security expert Kabiru Adamu stressed the need for Nigerians not to panic, but should rather be security conscious, as securing lives and property is not just the sole responsibility of the security personnel, but also responsibility of all.
So where foreign embassy, especially a friendly ally, and I emphasize that word, if an ally, a friendly one, is aware of an information or intelligence that could affect the host country, the established practice is to share that information with the host government.
This is not the first time we have had such, advisory notices. But this time around, it was more precise and specific, terrorist attack on Abuja. And the starting point is, let's look at it. The previous instances, they have given such advisory notes and predicted, such things happening. Have they happened? If they have not, so what is the motive behind this consistent advisory notice?
Adamu urged security personnel, Kabir Adamu, urged security personnel not to relent in their effort to curb the menace of terrorism, as it will go a long way to make the country safer. Kabir Lawal, Trust TV News, Abuja.
And moving on to money matters, Nigerians have been reacting to the recent decision by the Central Bank of Nigeria to redesign 3 of the Naira's major denominations. The new notes, which would be released by December 15th, are expected to replace the old notes from January 31st, 2023. This decision has elicited response from Nigerians who are asking how much of a difference this change makes to the country. Chairman Deben brings us this report.
The 3 denominations the CBN plans to redesign, according to the Apex Bank's governor, Godwin Emefiele, are the 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes. The move, approved by President Muhammadu Buhari, has so far garnered several reactions from the public and raised many questions, one of them being whether the move by the CBN is a misplaced priority, considering the several challenges the country is facing.
Well, I will start by commending his effort, but the time I would have loved him to wait. This dispensation has a little month. The current dispensation has a little month left. This is a type of project he should bring upstream when the new dispensation comes on board.
When I read this news yesterday, in fact, I was not happy, because from the look of things, it's like the federal government have lost focus. To me, the federal government have lost focus. When we are talking about insecurity and other things, hunger, and there are a lot of challenges we are facing in this country, but the federal government are telling us that they want to redesign Naira. But it's uncalled for.
To reprint the new currency, the money is cost us as extra money, which is, to me, has no justification for, because presently our problem is not about to redesign our currency. We have a lot of problems in Nigeria that we need to face that to the current, because we have a lot of debt we need to pay. To redesign our currency now, it implicates more cost on us.
In a bid to mop up the excess money in circulation, could the CBN inadvertently create a new set of problems for Nigeria?
The immediate impact, could be slowdown in GDP. We may also have a situation of, loss of jobs, here and there, and even a spike in the exchange rate, particularly in the parallel markets. You should expect that some people may want to take advantage of the days, and they will now besiege the parallel markets to offload the cash they have. So you are likely to have some of these immediate, reactions, but they are going to be short-lived.
Let's look at it from the point of the economic impacts as a policy, will that impact in curbing the rising inflation figure? The answer is no, because it's actually counterproductive. And if let's also look at it from the time frame they are looking at, they are just looking at 90 days, 3 months. How could you succeed to take away about close to 3.4 trillion naira within 90 days from the circulation? That's impossible. That's a total policy somersault. You're going to put a lot of pressure to the system, and that is not welcome at this very point in time. You are using 90 days to do such kind of a huge. In other clients, they give 1 year, 6 months minimum. Why are you going for 90 days? It's going to put a lot of pressure on those who hold in such cash.
With barely 2 months between the release date and the deadline, is the timeline given realistic, and how well thought out is the plan by the central bank?
This is the time of politics and politicking. Elections are around the corner, and if the policy succeeds, fine and good. But if it backfires, then it will likely have disastrous consequences for the ruling party. And from the analysis I have read and heard, so far by the experts, it can go either way. Governments usually give this kind of deadlines only for them to extend them. So probably at the back of their minds, they may have these plans that if there are outcries, or if it is very obvious that 6 weeks will be inadequate, there may be extension.
Whether good or bad, Nigerians have one option, and that is to act accordingly. Chamun Dabeng, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Now, security experts say security challenges in Nigeria can only be tackled if there is will on the side of the government. The experts believe that if properly equipped, security agencies can end security challenges before the end of the year. This report.
Nigeria has been battling security challenges like Boko Haram insurgency, banditry, cattle rustling, among others. Despite effort by the security agencies to tackle the menace, these challenges continue to linger for over a decade, with many Nigerians forced to relocate to safer places. Many feel relieved when Interior Minister Rauf Aregbesola said government will end insecurity before the end of the year. Also, the Chief of Staff to President Muhammadu Buhari, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, has said that Nigerians will begin to see success in the fight against terrorism and other crimes. However, security experts highlighted some of the setbacks recorded in the fight against insecurity.
A little bit hamstring all that has been, affecting the general move, I think, is the strength. When I say strength, the number of the fighting troops. If you look at the land area, honestly, left, right, center, if there is a body of men fighting in the center, there should be on the left of it another body of men, on the right of it body that is neighboring fighting this thing. In case we hit there, this one, if there is an escape, you block here, block. This is what I mean. So that's that.
Ending insecurity completely is going to be very, very difficult. Even in the Americas, or the UK, in China, in Germany, in other countries of the world where you have high security network in terms of technology and manpower, you still find a pocket of crimes here and there.
According to them, ending insecurity is achievable only if there is will to do so.
If the will is there, it is very much achievable. You understand me? What are the ingredients of the will? Very good equipping of the troops that are fighting, more intelligence report from the general public, much more prayers from the general public.
Nigerians are hopeful that security challenges will be a thing of the past in no distant future. Bello Musa, Trust TV News Kaduna.
And that will be a wrap on our report this morning. We'll take a quick breather. When we return, we'll go straight to the newspaper review this morning. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's Daybreak on Trust Television, and it's that segment where we bring you the stories that are making the front pages of the major newspapers in Nigeria this morning. And as usual, we will begin with the Daily Trust. And on the Daily Trust this morning, the atmosphere doesn't seem very bright, and it's aptly captured by the headlines of the Daily Trust this morning. Germany, Bulgaria, Ireland, Denmark join US, UK in Nigeria's terror alert. Real reasons US raise red flag. IGP order security beef up as FCTA releases 60 surveillance vehicle. No need to panic, intelligence sources. Abuja Mall short suppression. You will find this many more on pages 5 of Daily Trust. You also have there the picture of the shot Jabi Mall, entrance to the Jabi Mall that was shot yesterday over security threats in Abuja. Two other stories on the front pages. Court adjourns hearing on suit challenging Nigeria's police commercialization. Interesting. You'll find that on page 4. Drug dealers delivering cannabis to terrorists. This is according to the NDLEA. And NNPC Daewoo Group sign MOU for Kaduna Refinery rehabilitation. I hope this time the much touted turnaround would happen, because most of these refineries have just simply refused to turn around, despite the huge sums that the Nigerian state seem to have sunk into this operation. These are the major stories on the front page of the Daily Trust.
Okay, let's take a look at some more stories on the Nation newspaper this morning. The Nation is also leading with a security story talking about terror alert, parties in a fix over call to halt campaigns. And you'd find some of the riders there saying UK cautions citizens against traveling to Abuja. Akinyemi, NSA should warn politicians. We won't stop our rally, says Labour Party. And then the APC, PDP. We are studying situation. You'd find other interesting stories as well on the Nation newspaper this morning, right at the top on page 7. NNPCL, Daewoo Group sign MOU on Kaduna Refinery. And on page 6 on the Nation, flood claims will be over 1 trillion, say insurers. Zenith Bank records double-digit growth in Q3. Names of NDDC board members before Senate. And you'd see another story. Sanwo-Olu proposes 1.69 trillion budget of continuity. And then $1.5 billion Lekki deep sea port ready for test run. These are the major stories on the Nation this morning.
We move on now to the Punch newspaper. And it's also staying with the major terror alert in the country. FG detained 35 suspected ISWAP fighters as tension heightens. UK issues fresh alert. IG releases emergency phone number, calls for vigilance. FCTA demolishes shanties. Jabi shopping mall shut other facilities. Tighten security. Air Force to take delivery of additional fighter helicopters in December, and that is according to the Chief of Army Staff. We have here as a major picture on the front pages the commissioning of firefighting equipment and officers in Lagos State yesterday by Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu as Lagos recruits 423 firemen, boost firefighting capacity. Two other stories there on the front page. FG open talks with investors on Lagos Calabar Rail. Zenith Bank Q3, that's Q3 earnings rise to 620 billion. Airlines spends $192 billion on Jet A1. That's according to report. That's basically the specialized fuel used by airlines. You are wrong. Tinubu not selfish. Ononuga replies Akintoye. You'll find that just beside the name marks. And to other stories, Lagos Delta Cross River presents 2.8 trillion budget. Chidinma transferred 5 million from a Target's account. That's according to witness. And floods threatening 1.9 trillion CBN agri scheme losses mount. These are the major stories on the front page of the Punch newspaper.
Let's take a look at some more interesting stories on the Blueprint newspaper. 5 days after US-UK terror alert, FCTA beefs up security operations with 60 vehicles. Approves 500 million for community policing in area councils. And then you'd see some of the riders there saying operatives raid Lugbe Estate, Jabi Lake Mall shuts down operations. We've neutralized powers of insurgents. This is according to the Nigeria Air Force. Man dies during sex romp in Ondo Hotel. 2023 war against vote buying will be total, AFCC declares. Says illegitimate funds won't find their way into electoral process. And then federal government moves to end Nigerians' migration overseas, harps on capacity building, technology transfer. I find a very interesting pictorial there that shows you former President Goodluck Jonathan, King of Otoke Town, and others inspecting the state of flood in Otoke Ogbea local government area of Bayelsa State on Thursday. And then on page 23, 1 billion Naira Dangote promo. Over 100 customers become instant millionaires. Lagos hits 1.69 trillion mark in 2023 budget. Economic woes may continue as World Bank forecast oil price drop. And then Kaduna raises $149 million investments attract 18 COIs in Q2. On page 23 on the Blueprint newspaper, FIRS commences direct collection of taxes from online gaming operators. These are the stories on the Blueprint.
And moving away from our conventional papers to a business niche paper, Business Day. This morning we have there as the major headline, Japa Wave fast tracks career back home. You want to take a guess at what that is when you pick up a copy of the Business Day this morning. And to other headlines on the front page, Zenith Bank 9-month gross earning jumped to 680 billion. 10 Nigerians developing health systems abroad. Naira redesign, expert differ with CBN as new requirements emerge. And to other stories there, Nigeria travel fame miss out on World Cup ticket sales. Wow, how just one action of losing out on the World Cup has impacted other activities in the country. Abuja Mall shuts as DSS arrests terror suspects in estate. You know, these are the major stories on the front page of Business Day this morning.
On the first news, security agencies arrest 5 ISWAP commanders, 30 fighters in Abuja. DSS, NIA, police, other security operatives dismantled terror cell in joint operation. Raid suspects hideouts in Abuja, Maraba, other FCT satellite towns. IGP releases emergency numbers nationwide as UK issues fresh terror alert. Popular Abuja supermarket, Jabi Lake Mall shuts down over security threat. You'd find other stories as well on the first news. Gbeji killings, no Fulani killed, no cow rustled. Ukum Union as group debunks claims by police chief on alleged reprisal attack. Federal government approves 5-year tax break for agric investors. And then you'd find other stories as well. 2023, Atiku travels to US to canvass support of Nigerians in diaspora. Terror threat, minister declares FCT safe. Man carrying 101 PVCs arrested by police in Sokoto. Obasa lists 3 areas. Sang will lose over 1 trillion in 2023 budget must address. NDLEA freezes 20 billion in 103 bank accounts owned by billionaire drug baron. Naira redesign. EFCC set to go after currency hoarders. Niger Delta. Ndiomu Tompolo meet in Baramatu. Lagos PDP Guba candidate Jando suffers setback as 5,000 supporters defect to APC. That's interesting. Zamfara bandit seize police officers' phones. And then 2023, Tinubu only concerned about personal interest. This is according to Akintoye.
Moving on to this Nigeria. Also staying with the terror attack, UK further warns nationals to avoid Abuja. Asks them to travel to Nigeria capital only if necessary, as non-essential staff of the US Embassy leave for home. FG insists no cause for alarm. And we have there a photo of former President Jonathan in a flood of sympathy with Bayelsa people. We understand his own house was also one of those that were affected. Moving on to other reports on the front page, police nab man with 101 PVC in Sokoto, INEC to probe case. How Chidima allegedly transferred 5 million from slain Super TV boss Ataga's account by witness. Restructuring would be your greatest legacy, Okotie tells Buhari. And tampering with 2023 poll result will spark revolution, says Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria. Non-Niger Deltans pay 1 million bribe to benefit from amnesty program, says Ndiomo. These are the major stories on the front page of this Nigeria.
Very interesting stories, I must say. Now, to review some of the stories making headway on our papers this morning, we have, as usual, Nuruddin Abdullah. He's the editor, 21st Century Chronicle, joining us this morning to take a critical look at some of these stories. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak.
Good morning, Haji. Good morning, Mr. Sunday.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to have you join us once again. The moods are not exactly what we know the FCT to be. In the last couple of days, the roads have been deserted. Now major shops are shutting down. We saw an alert from the United States, and our government came out to say we should disregard them and go about our activities. And we saw an elevation of that alert. And in fact, videos making the rounds of U.S. citizens and foreign missions actually evacuating from Abuja. What do you think, what's going on in your mind with this kind of alert and debunking and all of the actions that we're seeing?
Two things. One, our security agencies are not on top of their game as far as this is concerned. Secondly, the Western countries, what they are doing is routine. If you check, maybe Nigerians don't do that, because of the level of our development. But whenever every citizen that lives outside his own country, particularly the Western nationals, you check that advisory. It's a routine thing that you find on their website, And remember when the alert first came in last week, I was shocked because even the people are considered enlightened, they converted the thing into a show of patriotism as such. I saw one guy, a social media influencer, saying that the U.S. must be ashamed now. Abuja is normal. I said, no. The advisory is not for you. No, it's for their citizens. And if you don't take it serious, the United States citizens living in Abuja do take that very, very serious. Because their government is responsible for them. More importantly, it simply means that there is no synergy between our security agencies and the diplomatic corps that lives particularly in the federal capital. There is this intelligence sharing. Let me give you an instance. Some years back, during this Buhari's administration, it wasn't even the government of Lebanon. I think it was the Hezbollah that tipped the authorities in Beirut that a top ISIS commander in Syria is coming to Nigeria, to Kano, on French passports.
Interesting.
He was granted visa by the Nigerian embassy in Beirut.
Without any due diligence?
Yes. We didn't hear anything after that. Who knows? They tip maybe the Nigerian officials there, and you know anything can happen. So when they see that it's not serious, he changed his looks completely and wanted ISIS operating in Syria on a French passport. Finally, on the eve of boarding the craft in Beirut, he was arrested by the Lebanese authorities. He was moving to Kano. Who invited him? Who is he meeting? What are his itineraries? Nobody knows. That was the end of story. We know when insurgency started, these Western countries, whatever you may call them, they do share intelligence with our. But when your intelligence services, you know, are even infiltrated, who can you trust?
Absolutely. I think that this brings me to my next question. A lot of people, when they saw, you know, that security alert, a lot of people were asking, are we really going to trust the Nigerian police over the U.S. government's warnings? And it brings the question about, you know, trust. You know, do the Nigerian people really trust its own government? And why are we seeing that kind of reaction?
IG last night, the police chief is saying that no, the alert is fake. They would just laugh at him. The number 5 in the hierarchy, the president, vice president, senate president, speaker, deputy speaker, or number 6 rather, Mr. Wasi, the plenary, you know, he has diplomatic, he has parliamentary immunity, told everyone that before the attack at the Kuje prison, the DSS issued over 44 alerts that this is gonna happen. No action was taken. When other sister security agencies, and that is it, there is that rivalry. My responsibility is to intercept, process, and produce intelligence. It is not my role to act on it. It is not the first time that we have heard of that. Now, Governor Nasir El-Rufai said this. He said, this is what you give me on daily basis. Why can't you act on them? So now the United States, they want idea of patriotism and what have you. Is it not the same Abuja some months ago that the elite military units that protect the president, the Presidential Guards Brigade, were gone down in Buhari from the 7th Battalion? Is it not the same members of the Guards Battalion that were gone down along Zuba? Didn't ISWAP make an attempt in Kuje? Not Kuje, that where the FGC was. And immediately all schools were shut down. We shouldn't forget this. If they have failed to do these things, when the Americans or whoever, to show you they are serious, you are celebrating. Yes, Abuja, the Americans will be disappointed now. Nobody. No, they are serious people. One life, one American life, they can deploy Marines. One American was abducted by ISWAP terrorists between the border of Niger Republic and Nigeria. It was during the Trump administration. I am not, with all humility, you know, and what if I don't even think that when the operation was taking place, our Nigerian insecurity chiefs knew. Until we saw a press conference from Trump. Yes, Our gallant Marine have rescued the American. So that is we should be serious, please. And now, look at what the Jabi men, they are business people. They can't politicize because of politics or whatever. No, they shut down. They don't want to take chances.
But we also know that panic is not a strategy. Do you think in your own evaluation that we are getting the kind of right messaging from our authority? Is it enough to just tell people go about your daily business and then publish phone numbers that probably if you call, nobody picks? Is there something else we should be doing as a precaution ourselves to show that is deploying 60 vehicles, you probably can't find fuel to run them around the city? It's not enough. These guys have gone beyond being afraid because 20 military vehicles, at the end of the day, they will even use those vehicles to terrorize law-abiding citizens more than even go about the terrorists. What else should we be doing? And I said it in the light of the fact that at the end of the day, the ordinary Nigeria will bear the brunt of any possible attack, should there be one, God forbid.
Mr. Sunday, remember during the Boko Haram, the UN building was attacked. And before it, there were all these travel advisory, there were this security alert that we dismiss. Because unfortunately, what we believe here, let me put it this way, banditry festered for long because some states' government were in denial. They don't want to admit there are security situation, incidences in their area that they cannot handle because they'll say, okay, if they admit, then it means that the commander-in-chief has failed, who is a retired general. They allow it to fester for that long, you remember. And even when apportioning blame, during the Boko Haram incident, Jonathan was voted out in 2015 because of his inability to secure the country. We didn't blame state governors at the peak of Boko Haram, but now we do because we don't want to apportion the blame in the right direction. Again, if, for instance, we have a serious security architecture manned by serious people, patriotic people, the Western countries will not be evacuating their citizens. To show you how serious they are. Like Mohammed can dish out 101 press conferences. The IG can write a statement in the night and what? They're serious. The intelligence at their own disposal is actionable intelligence, incontrovertible. That even if you share it with our Nigerian, okay, can you imagine this? Before the Kuje attack, we are about 70 Boko Haram militants were freed. You understand? A Nigerian security agency released 44 advisory to sister agencies. No action was taken. I'm not saying this. The Deputy Speaker, House of Representatives, said this at the plenary. So not to talk of over Sabi. So that is it. So we have to be serious. And this thing is affecting our economy, our struggling economy.
Talking about struggling economy, another issue that seemed to be, in the news is the redesigning of the Nigerian Naira notes. And a lot of Nigerians are saying it looks like this is a misplaced priority. Is this what we need at the moment?
I don't know. Maybe the man at the CBN, need to, that's what we normally do. When Mr. Sunday is at the heat of the day, so he has to create a diversionary tactics. Okay, there are so many reasons. I'm not an economist, but as a layman who listen to economists and read economic papers, know that the billions bandits, insurgents collect as ransom is not banked in the forest, Mr. CBN governor. They're being laundered in the cities. Look at do a content analysis. All those ragtag, militia, Fulani, whatever, how much have been given? They were just given some wad of cash to buy drugs, chase women, and that's all. The Kaduna train abduction, your paper said about 2 billion. So you mean the 2 billion, so the cash was there and they were moving in bullion vans or in sacks? No. The people spending this money are in the cities. That is what Emefiele and our security agency should do. Again, who tell them that if you bring a new note, ransom will not be paid with that new note? Again, God forbid, as of yesterday in the black market, the dollar was almost 778. Do you have, and what they don't know again is, this thieving elite don't hold naira. A 100 piece of dollar is how much now? With this amount, it's almost 707,800,000. Just one.
Just a bundle.
Exactly, a bundle. So you can carry up to 10 without anybody knowing. So I mean, you're talking about almost you carry more than 30 million without everybody knowing. What of if it is naira? They don't keep naira at home. We saw it when EFCC at the beginning of the transmission were doing whistleblowing. In all the houses, when at the Osborne Tower, did you see naira? No. In Kaduna, that the former NNPC, did you see naira?
No.
It's dollars. So I don't know, sometimes when we manufacture economic policies and the reasons we adduce, yes, there is this ransom. The issue is simple. Stop kidnappers from abducting people. If there is no abduction, nobody will be talking about ransom. Mr. Pantami has been saying, link your sin with whatever. You have stopped singing now. Because kidnappers are still transacting business on telephone lines that are registered.
Absolutely.
And nobody's saying anything about it. So these are the issues that they should review. Yesterday, and you know, it was somebody he said, it is, who told them that if the new notes are in place now, people will not pay ransom with the new notes. And who are even paying the ransom? It's a political season. People in high places. A family of a former governor who was in the trend. 2 senators raised more than 200 million to free that family. And now maybe the kidnappers, who knows, they will be collecting the money, the ransom on. Stop them from abducting people. People will have no cost to pay ransom because people are selling farmlands, people are auctioning their vehicles, selling their houses to free their loved ones because they don't have confidence on the security agencies.
Absolutely.
So that's it.
Absolutely. Loads of stories there that could keep us sad all day. But switching gears at this point, it's what we learned about Atiku now taking his campaign train. We don't know whether he received the security alert and decided to continue his campaign in a safer time. What the view. But I mean, if you look at the front page of the Nation newspaper, if my producer would share that with our viewers at home, you also see that parties are in a fix over call to hot campaigns, especially in the light of these new realities. What do you make of his trip to the to the US for about a week, as they mentioned? Perhaps by what time the security alert would have been dropped from the elevated level to normal? And I mean, why are the parties in a fix?
Yes, Mr. Sunday, it's a reality. In as much as the people at the lower level, you know, as a result of one fake patriotism, saying that no, these Westerners do. The likes of Atiku, Tinubu, Peter Obi, and other people know that this is real.
Yeah.
Because they receive intelligence too. Even though they are not in the position maybe to act on them. But there's Atiku received intelligence, the former vice president for that matter.
Absolutely.
Intelligence from inside and outside of the country.
Yeah.
You know, so they don't want to risk it. Again, when you look at the situation, is somebody trying to truncate the transition? I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist.
Absolutely. There are things we can obviously say on TV, but we were having that conversation, and in fairness, we've been thinking of how do we have this conversation without necessarily triggering, the obvious. And the question really is, have we gotten to the level where these so-called terrorists or bandits or whatever name we call them now have the coordinating sophistication to mount a threat on the Federal Capital Territory and multiple locations at the same time? Are we looking at something beyond just these ragtag bandits and terrorists we see on display? Could it be something greater than that we seem to be discussing from the periphery?
I say we dismiss things, maybe saying we crucify the messengers who bring the message that we don't want. We're not talking about Kaduna. We're not talking about Kano. We're not talking about Zamfara, Sokoto, or Benue, or Plateau. We're talking about the Federal Capital Territory. You know, we do say these things. What is the distance? How many minutes drive from Kuji prison
to the city,
to the presidential wing, the airport where the president took off? You know, he likes traveling. From there, what is the distance to the villa where the president sleeps and works? Distance to the National Assembly, distance to the NIA, distance even to the Yellow House, distance to even the police headquarters. When we ask this question, nobody has been penalized yet. Months after that attack on Kuje prison, more than 10 people carry out that attack. Let's be modest. More than 10 people. They came, they bulldozed themselves into the prison, they freed everyone, they preached, gave transport money, and they left. And said, this is Abuja, federal capital. So it means that was a harbinger of more things to come. They have tested the waters. They have seen that the place is porous. They have believed that the security chiefs, what they do, they only dismiss. And now this US is bringing this. Lai Mohammed dismiss it. US don't want Nigeria. So, okay, Mr. Minister, continue. They brought planes and they are evacuating their people. Not only the US, almost all the Western countries have joined that league. So it simply means that, and you know how many months to election? What is really happening? Who is safe? Where is safe in the country now? So it's something that instead of speaking to the cameras, debunking, refuting, describing anything as fake news and whatever, they should do the needful. The transition should not be truncated. Now you are saying that there won't be rallies. Okay, then how are you going to do it? Maybe you'll come and say, okay, there won't be election in so areas and whatever. Then what happens?
Well, the Labour Party is saying they are still going to hold their rallies, regardless of whatever is going to come
I think what the IG and all other security agencies should do is to ensure that they secure wherever this thing. The transition must continue, please.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. There is no better way to put it. We hope that our program as a people and as a nation is not truncated on account of everything we are hearing. The government must come out forcefully, to tell Nigerians what they need to know and what they are doing, other than just deploying 60 vehicles, probably without fuel, to patrol the city as a sign of force. This is an intelligent warfare. It's not about a show of us per se. Nigerians want to see more. Nigerians are worried because we can also read the security alert by this nation. We know how countries have paid dearly, how even the U.S. itself has paid dearly for its own officials failing to yield. I mean, the Benghazi experience is there for everybody to reference. We hope this is taken care of. It is on this note that we want to thank Nuruddin Abdallah for coming to the studios and sharing with us what appears as the fears and the anxiety of the average Nigerian who lives in the capital city and other adjoining states that have also been listed on this elevated threats list. Thank you very much for making it to the studio today.
Thank you for coming.
We hope that everything will go well, and we put our trust in God as usual.
We do that. We seem to do that a lot.
Yes, that everything will go well, and this country will continue as a sovereign nation, going forward. This is where we draw the curtain on newspaper review. We will take a breather and return at the top of the hour to serve you more from Daybreak. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
This is the road leading up to the Lokoja Bridge from Abuja, and as you can see, tankers carrying fuel, trucks carrying livestock, perishables, and commuters trying to make their way from point A to point B have all been slowed down as a result of the flooding going on in Lokoja.
As I tell you, so my house is inside water like this.
This is my house. Big music is my house.
We have no option than to come here and look for what we chop.
This water have really spoiled many things. Even as I'm talking to you, I'm not in my own house.
I want to encourage them and assure them that their government, the governor they elected, had come to see them, and government officials have been going there to see them. They are not in this alone. We are with them.
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Good morning, Nigerians. Welcome to Daybreak. It's 8 a.m. here in the capital city. I am Zainab Bala.
I am Sunday Michael Ogu. Thank you for allowing us come into your living room for free this morning.
Our headlines for you this morning. Tinubu will give women opportunities. This is according to Swagger.
FG to stop smuggling of food out of Nigeria, Minister.
Road accidents claim 30 lives in Kwara.
Now the details. The national chairman of the Southeast Agenda for Ashiwaju Swagger, Senator Dayo Adeyeye, has said Nigerian women would be accorded rightful places if All Progressive Congress APC presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu wins next year's election. Adeyeye spoke in Abeokuta, Ogun State during the inauguration of the Swagger Women Wing in the state. The former minister said Tinubu has the greatest respect for Nigerian women and had promised to include a higher percentage of women at the forefront of his administration. He described Tinubu as a man of vision, passion, and action. Adeyeye said Ashiwaju has said that Nigerian women under his incoming administration, by the grace of God, will have the best of opportunities, a better life, more than what we have ever seen before in the history of this country. Women will be in the forefront of his administration. He has promised it already, and we trust and believe him. The convener of Swagger, Honorable Oyetunji Ojo, explained that the newly inaugurated state executive have a responsibility to put in place the Swagger Women Wing at council, ward, and unit level. Ojo, who was a member of the House of Representatives, charged women to go to the nooks and crannies of the state and propagate Tinubu's ambition. The national chairman of Swagger Women Wing, Ayo Omodiro, said women have a huge responsibility to ensure Tinubu is elected president.
Now, the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Dr. Mohammed Abubakar, says the federal government is working with the Nigeria Customs Service and other agencies to stop smuggling of food out of Nigeria. Abubakar made this known during a working visit to the National Horticultural Research Institute, Ibadan, in Oyo State. According to him, the country has food security, hence the need to curtail smuggling of food out of the country. He added that so much had been done by the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration in rejigging the agricultural sector, saying that now it is contributing significantly to Nigeria's GDP. He assured Nigerians that the federal government would continue to increase the capacity of the research institutes. He, however, highlighted some of the notable feats recorded to include approval granted for the provision of a dedicated electricity line to the institute. Similarly, Saliu Imam, one of the Agricultural Development Project beneficiaries and farmers represented in Oyo State, lauded the lofty contributions of NIHOT to agricultural practices in Nigeria. According to Imam, the institute has been the only agency that gives farmers free field, 20 to 40 hectares, to plant their mandate crops.
No fewer than 30 people have been killed in a multiple accident which occurred in Kwara State. The Kwara State Sector Commander of the Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSC, Frederick Ade Ogidan, revealed this to Daily Trust on the sideline of the launch of this year's Ember Month campaign and mega rally, with the theme of the event being avoiding speeding, overloading, and unsafe tires to arrive alive. In the state capital in Ilorin, held on Thursday, he blamed the fatal accident which happened along the Jeba-Ilorin-Ogbomosho highway on excessive speeding and non-obedience to traffic rules and regulations, among other with road users. According to him, there were 3 separate incidents. One involved 4 casualties, another 9, and the last one had 16 persons involved who all died in the process. Ogidan said despite the efforts of the corps, recklessness on the part of some motorists and unsafe night trips have claimed several lives within the first week of the last quarter of 2022. He appealed to motorists to avoid overspeeding, overloading, and use of unsafe tires to reduce accidents, adding that all stakeholders should redouble efforts at ensuring safety on our roads. The sector commander explained that as at the year end, the increase in vehicular movement may increase road crashes if all hands are not on deck to ensure safety on the road through public enlightenment and education, effective patrol, and prompt rescue services.
Well, there you go on the news highlights. Let's take a look at more reports this morning. COC police authorities in Katsina have raised alarm over increasing rape cases in the state from January this year till date. The police command recorded 198 cases of rape with 207 suspected rapists arrested. Abdullahi Ahmadi has the details of this report.
The police spokesman, SP Gambo Isa, explains that while the police command is investigating cases, many suspects have been taken to various courts for prosecution. Similarly, rape cases are also pending at Ministry of Justice for legal advice to facilitate proper prosecution.
It was discovered that part of this country, the northwest region, especially Kano, Katsina Jigawa, are having this alarming rise in cases of rape. Not only rape, but even in abuse of drugs. And that's what we have been doing to see that in collaboration with relevant stakeholders like the traditional institution, the religious leaders. Not only that, even the NGOs like RAPA and some others were working in partnership to see that communities are being sensitized so that the issue of rape and other violent crimes against women and girls have come down in the states.
Teenage pregnancies from the reported rape cases also remain a source of worry for the police, calling on relevant stakeholders to engage parents on the responsibility of ensuring proper parental guidance and control of children. The Federation of International Women Lawyers and the Human Rights Network in Katsina State are concerned about the many frustrated cases of rape by the police operatives.
When you look at what is happening, sometimes we don't know whether it's a psychological problem or a mental problem, or is it that they are taking drugs, or is it that they are using these children for any charm or juju? Because we don't even understand why. A 70, 60, 50-year-old be raping 6, 4, 7-year girl. And when you go to the other side, you see 20-year-old, 17, raping 16, 17, 8, 15 to 17. Probably, maybe at that of I love you, I will marry you. But when you look at the other way, we don't know. But there is a concern and there should be a research on that issue.
Aggressive media campaigns and quick dispensation of justice, many believe will help in addressing the menace. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
It's unfortunate what is becoming of our society as a result of this serious moral decadence. Moving on, security experts say the security challenges in Nigeria can only be tackled if there is a will on the side of government. The experts believe that if properly equipped, security agencies can end security challenges before the end of the year. The report.
Nigeria has been battling security challenges like Boko Haram insurgency, banditry, cattle rustling, among others. Despite effort by the security agencies to tackle the menace, these challenges continue to linger for over a decade, with many Nigerians forced to relocate to safer places. Many feel relieved when Interior Minister Rauf Aregbesola said government will end insecurity before the end of the year. Also, the Chief of Staff to President Muhammadu Buhari, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, has said that Nigerians will begin to see success in the fight against terrorism and other crimes. However, security experts highlighted some of the setbacks recorded in the fight against insecurity.
A little bit hamstring all that has been, affecting the general move, I think, is the strength. When I say strength, the number of the fighting troops. If you look at the land area, honestly, left, right, center, if there is a body of men fighting in the center, there should be on the left of it another body of men, on the right of it body that is neighboring party this thing. In case we hit there, this one, if there is an escape, you block here, block. This is what I mean. So that's that.
Ending insecurity completely is going to be very, very difficult. Even in the Americas or the UK, in China, in Germany, in other countries of the world where you have high security network in terms of technology and manpower, you still find a pocket of crimes here and there.
According to them, ending insecurity is achievable only if there is will to do so.
If the will is there, it is very much achievable. You understand me? What are the ingredients of the will? Very good equipping of the troops that are fighting, more intelligence report from the general public, much more prayers from the general public.
Nigerians are hopeful that security challenges will be a thing of the past in no distant future. Bello Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
Now, Nigerians have been reacting to the recent decision by the Central Bank of Nigeria to redesign 3 of the Naira's major denominations. The new notes, which will be released by December 15th, are expected to replace the old notes from January 31st, 2023. This decision has elicited responses from Nigerians who are asking how much of a difference this change makes to the country. Chamunda Beng reports.
The 3 denominations the CBN plans to redesign, according to the Apex Bank's governor, Godwin Emefiele, are the 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes. The move approved by President Muhammadu Buhari has so far garnered several reactions from the public and raised many questions, one of them being whether the move by the CBN is a misplaced priority, considering the several challenges the country is facing.
Well, I will start by commending his effort, but the time I would have loved him to wait. This dispensation has a little month. The current dispensation has a little month left. This is a type of project he should bring upstream when the new dispensation comes on board.
When I read this news yesterday, in fact, I was not happy because from the look of things, it's like the federal government have lost focus. To me, the federal government have lost focus. When we are talking about insecurity and other things, hunger, and there are a lot of challenges we are facing in this country, but the federal government are telling us that they want to redesign Naira. But it's uncalled for.
To reprint the new currency, the money is cost us as extra money, which is, to me, has no justification for, because presently our problem is not about to redesign our currency. We have a lot of problems in Nigeria and we need to face that to the current, because we have a lot of debt we need to pay. To redesign our currency now, it implicates more cost on us.
In a bid to mop up the excess money in circulation, could the CBN inadvertently create a new set of problems for Nigeria?
The immediate impact, could be slowdown in GDP. We may also have a situation of, loss of jobs, what's here and there, and even a spike in the exchange rate, particularly in the parallel markets. You should expect that some people may want to take advantage of the days and will now besiege the parallel markets to offload the cash they have. So you are likely to have some of these immediate, reactions, but they are going to be short-lived.
Let's look at it from the point of the economic impacts as a policy. With that impact in coping the rising inflation figure, the answer is no, because it's actually counterproductive. And let's also look at it from the time frame they are looking at. They are just looking at 90 days, 3 months. How could you succeed to take away about close to 3.4 trillion naira within 90 days from the circulation? That's impossible. That's a total policy somersault. You are going to put a lot of pressure to the system. And that is not welcome at this very point in time. You are using 90 days to do such kind of a huge. In other clients, they give 1 year, 6 months minimum. Why are you going for 90 days? It's going to put a lot of pressure on those who hold in such cash.
With barely 2 months between the release date and the deadline, is the timeline given realistic, and how well thought out is the plan by the central bank?
This is the time of politics and politicking. Elections are around the corner, and if the policy succeeds, fine and good. But if it backfires, then it will likely have disastrous consequences for the ruling party. And from the analysis I have read and heard, so far by the experts, it can go either way. Governments usually give these kind of deadlines only for them to extend them. So probably at the back of their minds, they may have these plans that if there are outcries, or if it is very obvious that 6 weeks will be inadequate, there may be extension.
Whether good or bad, Nigerians have one option, and that is to act accordingly. Chamun Dabeng, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Following the United States Embassy security advisory on the possibility of terror attack in the Federal Capital Territory, shopping malls have begun to close operations over fear of being attacked. One of such is the Jabi Lake. Trust TV Kabiru Lowell visits the mall and files in this report.
On October 23, 2022, the United States Department of State warned of possible terror attacks in Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory, especially on government buildings, places of worship, schools, and other centers where large crowds gather. It followed the warning on Tuesday with an advisory to United States citizens who are out of Nigeria to reconsider travel on Nigeria due to crime, terrorism, and other civil unrest, among others. Although the federal government has maintained the alert was baseless, security operatives were, however, spotted at the Jabi Lake malls while customers were denied entrance into the mall. Vendors at the mall described the action as demoralizing, as they could not attend to their customers.
We just came this morning and we were denied space for selling our food items. We are calling on government and well-to-do individuals to come to our aid for us to keep food on the table for our families.
They say that they put bomb for the other Lugbe shop, right? So they want to investigate here. So that is the reason.
Security expert Kabiru Adamu stressed the need for Nigerians not to panic, but should rather be security conscious, as securing lives and property is not just the sole responsibility of the security personnel, but also responsibility of all.
So where foreign embassy, especially a friendly ally, and I emphasize that word, an ally, a friendly one, is aware of an information or intelligence that could affect the host country, the established practice is to share that information with the host government.
This is not the first time we have had such, advisory notices, but this time around it was more precise and specific, terrorist attack on Abuja. And the starting point is, let's look at it. The previous instances, they have given such advisory notes and predicted such things happening. Have they happened? If they have not, so what is the motive behind this consistent advisory notice?
Adamu urged security personnel, Kabir Adamu urged security personnel not to relent in their effort to curb the menace of terrorism, as it will go a long way to make the country safer. Kabir Lowell, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Well, there you go. You're still watching Daybreak on Trust Television. After this quick timeout, we'll be ready for our first discussion on the program. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, you're still watching Daybreak on Trust TV. Now, Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission (RMAFC) has announced plans of upward to review salaries and allowances of political office holders in the country. Beneficiaries of the review are the President, Vice President, Senate President, Speaker, Chief Judge of the Federation, governors, members of the National Assembly, ministers, commissioners, and other political appointees are also beneficiaries, just like members of State House of Assembly and local council chairmen and their councillors in the 774 local government areas. A statement from the agency said the chairman of the commission, Mohammed Bello Shehu, made the disclosure when he paid a courtesy visit to the chairman, Nigerian Governors Forum, Aminu Tambuwal of Sokoto State, in his office in Abuja. Shehu stated that paragraph 32D of part of 1 to the 3rd schedule of 1999 Constitution as amended empowers the Commission to determine the remuneration of political, public and judicial officers. Now, to discuss salary hike of political office holders are Mr. Salahuddin Hashim, who was a senior program officer, CISLAC, now director of programs, Clean Foundation, and Majid Dahiru, a public affairs analyst. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome to Daybreak.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Good morning, Majid. It's good to see you again.
Thank you very much.
The last time myself and Salahuddin were running around the trenches of the West African coast on some special assignment. It's good to see you after 7-8 years.
Yeah, good to see you.
We are here again. You listened to that intro. And when that news hit, Mr. Dairu, a lot of things must have been going through your mind. We were just battling to explain a 20 trillion naira budget with about 11 trillion deficit. And the bulk of that deficit is to finance recurrent expenditure and debt service. Whatever is going to I mean, we are already overshooting what it was we had projected we'll spend this year at 10 months. We are not sure where we will be by December. The government is not even sure where to find the next fund. They're talking about taxing poverty as a way of raising revenue. And in the face of all of this, the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Planning Commission wakes up and tells Nigeria that whatever it is we are carrying right now that is making us suffocate is not enough. They want to increase the salary of public officers. We understand, yes, they said it's a constitutional responsibility, but does it make sense to you? Or did it make sense to you when that news came to you? How exactly did you feel as a Nigerian watching the trajectory, from that announcement?
It didn't make sense to me because it doesn't make sense at all. At the time we are supposed to be talking about cutting down on cost of governance, we are contemplating increasing the cost of governance across board. And when you talk about governance in this country, is there really governance? We are actually contemplating increasing the cost of maintaining people that are in government because they're not actually rendering governance. If they were, our physical reality would be as grim as we just painted it. And it is even worse than you've said because there's a projected crude oil benchmark of 1.6 million barrels per day, which realistically cannot be met given the current situation of oil theft in the Niger Delta and other host oil-producing communities. And so what we have today is a fiscal tragedy waiting to happen. And at such a time, the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission is contemplating what it ordinarily shouldn't even contemplate at all, shouldn't occur to it, to raise remunerations, salaries and allowances for the various cadre of political office holders in Nigeria. It's not only insensitive. We need to say it the way it is. It makes no sense. In fact, are you rewarding Nigeria's political class for underperformance? Ordinarily, if anything should have been done is to actually reduce their salaries and allowances for poor performance because it is a collective failure that has brought us on the brinks of state failure. When we talk about state failure, not only security, economic failure is also part of state failure, where the government can no longer meet its responsibility of welfare and security to citizens. These are early warning signs of state failure. So are you rewarding the same political class that has misruled the country to the point they were going to borrow to service debt. If you know what that means, maybe somebody is not making sense of what's about to happen. And it's such a time you are talking about increasing salaries for presidents, vice presidents, when they are already consuming a bulk of our commonwealth without delivering on key performance indices of leadership. So ordinarily, this is actually, it's not just about insensitivity, it's actually infuriating. It's frustrating, really. It means somebody is seriously detached from reality. And I think all of us as Nigerians must come together and say, that should not happen, it must not happen, and should not be allowed to happen.
So, Mr. Salahuddin, let's hear your own. What are your thoughts,
Yeah, for me, it's the fact that at a time when the health of our public finance is on life support, I don't think it is the proper and appropriate timing to make such proposition. First, two, at the time where the salaries of lecturers in the ASU hasn't been paid for 8 months. And of course, children and prospective leaders for this country have also stayed home for about 8 months. Such proposition is coming on the table. At a time where governors and the Governors Forum had proposed that civil servants who are above 50 years should be retired as a result of the inability to pay, such proposition is coming on the table. I think it is actually an irresponsible kind of thought from somebody that is coming. At a time where we have larger chunk, over 60–70% of our consumables coming from borrowing, where we have deficits in our budgeting, and we are borrowing to actually pay overhead, not borrowing for infrastructure. We are borrowing for overhead. We are borrowing to pay debt. At that time, somebody is coming with such proposition. I think it is actually an opportunity for us to again do an appraisal of the political elite and ask ourselves if indeed this is the kind of system of governance that we really should be yearning for. The part of campaign promises of the president when he came to the office was that he was going to reduce cost of governance. Okay, that hasn't happened. Part of his promises were that he was going to boost the economy. That hasn't happened. Part of the promises were that he was going to increase job and, of course, fortify the issue of security. That hasn't happened. So it tells you very clearly that there is something within statecraft, and there is an elite capture of the society. And that is the reason why such kind of proposal can come to the table for the president with over 360 members of the National Assembly, and, of course, some state governors taking over 63 billion naira. And that, for me, is something that we really need to further interrogate. And we need to interrogate it already for individuals like the previous speaker had mentioned, had taken a bulk of our national resources. And of course, it is a case of stealing the country blind, as it were, and of course, paying over 2,000 special advisors who are also going to benefit from this entire jumbo pay. It is not the proper time to do so. I think what we should be doing now is to pay attention to how to restore education, how to put in any extra resources into financing restoration, because what we have lost in the academics in the last 8 months will take a whole lot of time to recover. There are other sectors of the economy that requires funding, and how we, not for individuals to continue to go up and take us into this. And that in itself also form part of the entire architecture of political economy that deals with how you consistently impoverish the people, continue to empower the elite, and that is how empowerment has led to additional disempowerment. And I think it is important that some people should actually bury that idea, because it is ill-timed and it might just create another sort of protest from different parts of the society.
Mr. Dairo, coming back to you and listening to Saleu, and of course a host of other public commentaries, that had followed this announcement. Some analysts have argued that we are not going to find any money anywhere. At any rate, the government IOUs have even overshot. It's almost the size,
both locally and internationally.
The size of our national, the local one, the ways and means from the CBN alone is over 20 trillion. Whatever limits that are available by any global best practice. And some public commentators have argued that it will be difficult to find new fundings. What we need to do is to re-engineer our balance sheets and find the extra fundings that are required to do some of the critical infrastructures or social interventions, if you like, the case may be. What sense do you get of this new leadership of Rama? Does it seem like they are detached from the Nigerian reality, or they do not understand what we are confronted with? Because even this government, I think the president and the vice president took some kind of informal pay cuts on resolution upon realizing that we really need to find a way to cut down. But that is just the tip of the iceberg, because we didn't see other politicians take that to. I mean, what would have been ideal is that because the president has announced a 50% or whatever percent cut in his income, others who were also claiming to be patriotic would have just basically taken this. And we are not seeing that. What sense? I'm trying to make sense of it. What do you make of even the kind of persons that seem to man these agencies? Because they only seem to understand their role from an upward review and not a possible downward review in the face of our reality.
You have asked a very important question. For an institution such as the Revenue Allocation and Fiscal Mobilization Commission, you would have expected to have seasoned financial experts, management experts, patriots, who understand the times and will know how to intervene on such constitutional responsibilities as fixing the wages and remuneration of public servants in the country. Such that at a time like this, one would have expected such distinguished Nigerians and patriots to actually advocate for a downward review of these pecs of offices for our distinguished political leadership gentlemen and women. But unfortunately, there's something that has gone wrong with Nigeria since 1999. My colleague here talked about the political economy. Nigeria's political economy is hinged firmly on resource sharing and not resource production. And that is because Nigeria's political process is primarily driven by politics of identity of religion and ethnicity. And I've always argued that the major reward system for identity politics is patronage. And patronage is a sexy word for corruption, grand corruption. A corruption that simply seeks to take from the system as much as possible. We call it national cake sharing. So every position in the country, every position, from heads of MDAs to members of commissions and boards of parastatals, have come under this patronage system. And so you find that people that are actually appointed into an important commission, such as the Revenue Allocation and Fiscal Mobilization Commission, are partisan politicians that were put there for the purpose of the continuous and elaborate patronage system.
So clearly,
so their focus...
There is no scientific approach to
No. Their focus is, this is our opportunity now to also take from the system. And in doing this, we also need to satisfy the entire political class because we put here for that purpose. So you'll not be surprised about that. And that is why Nigeria has continuously degenerated in terms of economy to a debt-burdened country that is losing lifelines, both domestically and internationally, on new sources of financing rapidly because we've not shown enough fiscal responsibility, because we've actually violated our own fiscal responsibility laws domestically when we overshot our threshold, for example, by way of ways and means from the CBN and all other aspects of misconduct, financial misconduct in public service. And so this is a reflection, or should I say a symptom of a deep-seated ailment that is at the core of the dysfunction of the Nigerian state. And I've always advocated that, look, to resolve this problem, we can't resolve it from just treating the symptoms. We have to carry out a proper diagnosis in order to arrive at a specific reason why we are having this sort of degenerative problem. The problem has so degenerated that it will be difficult for the current system, if not completely reconfigured, to regenerate Nigeria's political process, its political economy, and even redeem its constitutional democracy. It's as though our democracy is no longer yielding the much anticipated dividends of democracy that ushered in, that euphoria that welcomed Nigeria's transition from military to civil democratic rule in 1999. And that is because the patronage system, that is the only reward system for partisan politics in Nigeria, has made it impossible for governments, successive democratically elected governments, to deliver it on its mandate of welfare and security. It's increasingly difficult. And so we need to sit down and have a conversation about our kind of democracy, because democracy remains the best form of government.
Absolutely.
But Nigeria's democracy is not in practice in line with the rules, regulations, and codes of conduct of proper democracies. And that is where the conversation for me should start from.
Well, let me direct this at Mr. Salahuddin. Let me just quickly spell this out before I go to my next question. At the moment, salaries of some political and public office holders are as follows. The president is collecting over 40 million per annum, the vice president over 12 million, ministers, SGF, HOS, chairman of constitutional bodies over 7 million, ministers of state, members of constitutional bodies over 7 million, and even special advisors, including speechwriters, are collecting over 7 million. As a normal Nigerian, their reaction to this, is not quite encouraging. How can Nigerians, protest this proposal?
Yeah, I think I will begin by just wanting to reference the last comment he made about democracy being the best system of government, which is globally accepted. But of course, we can also adapt it. There is nobody who says we can also use this kind of democracy. We also can adapt it to suit our own context. And obviously, if you look at the most progressive economies in the world, they don't even practice democracy anyway. But unfortunately, it only offers people an opportunity to also participate and gives you that sense of inclusion. But unfortunately, what we have here today is just a group of individuals who have organized themselves to continue to pilot their affairs in the wrong direction. And that in itself is something we need to establish. And then, of course, considering what is collected, I think it is a little bit modest when you reference their salaries. Okay, and while Sonny was making his intro, and he mentioned that the president and the vice president accepted pay cuts, they actually accepted pay cuts on their basic salaries, not on the allowances, because you know that allowances are over 300 times bigger than the actual salaries. So, I mean, anybody can let go of any amount from the salary because it's a fraction of whatever that comes. And it tells you that we have a system that is not very honest, okay? When you have an administration where leadership selection process is actually very faulty, this is actually what you get at the end of the day. You realize that since we returned to democracy, there has been a commercialization of our leadership selection process, okay? And if you have those kind of approaches, there is no way you are going to isolate yourself from this gratification system where individuals now use offices as an opportunity to pay back their paymasters, for some kind of favors, supposedly. Because it is not about merit anymore, okay? It is not about critical thinking. It is not about people who have actually who have a trajectory of performance, and of course for so reasons they have actually had the opportunity to now occupy public office. It is a case, like he mentioned, that borders around identity, okay, and borders around who exactly you know and who is able to drive you to the top echelon. And unfortunately, because we have that system of a winner takes all, and we have this situation that borders around how the regime itself is configured in a manner that does not leave room for accountability. The only reason why a number of us are disappointed is within the mantra within which this administration was actually brought to power in the first place. And every promises they have made. I wonder how people actually sleep at night. How you sleep at night knowing fully well that as an adult, you have actually made a promise either to your son or to a younger colleague or to a brother, and you are seen to deliberately or ignorantly not to have fulfilled that? And then, of course, what does your conscience begin to tell you? I think it is important that we begin to, first of all, conscientize. And I wrote an open letter to the president over the October 1st, and I said, look, it is important for him to do a scorecard of what exactly, where the campaign promises, and put them side by side with the reality on the ground. And he shouldn't allow those who would come and give him a cosmetic analysis of what he has actually achieved. He should be out there to be able to tell and request some kind of feedback. And because we have an absence of monitoring and evaluation, process monitoring has actually failed in this country. People no longer do an evaluation. All we do is put out policies out there, then we go to sleep, and one day we just come back and say, look, how have we performed? We have a budgeting system that is actually very faulty. When he came to the office, he said he was going to begin to operate a zero budgeting approach that would help us develop a needs-based approach to development. That failed from the first day. He said he was going to create the proximity between budget and national planning, which made a lot of sense to me, because for you to budget properly, it means that you must be able to adequately plan, because planning actually fits into that. And then, of course, that actually brought about the merger between budget and national planning, which was a beautiful idea. But what is the result? The result has suggested that it was an idea that wasn't thought through, and then, of course, it just has led us to this point where we are. And finally, for me, is the fact that I saw a prototype of where Singapore and Malaysia were going to be for the next 50 years. And it is actually a product of planning. And unfortunately for us, we are not even in that pathway towards ensuring that we put indicators that can help us understand that we are making progressive growth. We have governments who have also engaged themselves in oil theft, just like he had mentioned. We have governments who themselves, and you mentioned about the issue of reconfiguring our revenue architecture. Most government agencies don't even remit anymore. And that includes the ministry where the president is also the minister, okay? And the Auditor General's office has flagged this consistently. And every audit report suggests that a lot of ministries don't remit, but nothing happens. And it tells you a lot of things.
I would like to hold your thoughts there. You've made quite a number of interesting points for us to chew, and especially I would like to reemphasize your comment around asking the president to do a self-appraisal. I would remind you that in several forums these last few days, whether it's at the UN or wherever he appears, he seems to be telling us that he has done well by his own capacity. Whether or not the reality reflects on the ground, it's a different conversation. We will take a short breather to pay some bills. When we return, I can assure you that there is more interesting part of this conversation to come to you. Please stay with us.
Residents of the Federal Capital Territory are hereby alerted to the activities of scavengers, also known as Babambula, which security agencies have identified as a high-level security threat to not only the residents, but also to our infrastructure as they perpetrate petty stealing and acts of vandalism on public utilities. More so, they are drug peddlers, serve as spies to terrorist elements, and are ready-made tools for the public disturbances during which they attack people with dangerous weapons. The Federal Capital Territory Administration therefore reiterates that the ban on scavengers, aka Bababula, operating within the Federal Capital City is still in force. These miscreants are advised to stay off the streets of the Federal Capital City for their own good, as defaulters will be apprehended and prosecuted, including parents of underage children involved in these practices. Relevant agencies are carrying out enforcement of this ban as stipulated. Be law-abiding always. Let's together build the FCT of our dreams. Management Announcer.
Thank you very much. If you're just joining us, it's Daybreak on Trust Television. And we have been evaluating the indications coming out of the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Planning Commission that they are set to review. And by that, I mean upward review the salaries of public office holders in Nigeria. I will still be staying with you, Mr. Salah, because I had to cut your thought last time to interrogate a certain aspect of that conversation, which was, we talked about the salaries of our judicial officers. Is it also proper in this conversation to throw away the baby and the bathwater? There have been comments about our judicial officers being the worst, one of the worst paid in the world. We know the condition of some of our judges, and we know the implication for the carriage of justice, and that's why politicians can just probably walk into the inner chambers and practically secure judgments. We have governors today who are sitting in a state where they didn't even participate in an election, and you are wondering the kind of dislocation that all of these things had brought to our democracy. Is there a justification for the review, for instance, of the judicial office, our judges and other judicial officers' salary in the context of this whole conversation for around this call?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when I actually reflect to think that Nigeria was actually bought by the British so I always think that maybe that jinx is the reason why everything in Nigeria is actually for sale. Because, you know, Nigeria was actually sold for £650,000. so maybe it actually for me now historical. And, you know, from the part of the country where I come from, there are certain things early in life that actually determines how your future now turns out to be. But coming out to your question, is the fact that everything in this country is actually for sale, irrespective of how much you pay judges. Okay, those who want to be corrupt will still be corrupt. Those who want to induce them will still induce them. And those critical areas where we need increment, I think we need to put in a lot of effort there. For every country that is actually serious with itself, he knows too well that you must pay attention to education. The entry level for a professor in the university is actually 310,000. And the bar at the point of is actually 410. Okay, so which means that at the time you are retiring as a professor, you're actually earning 410,000 naira. And that is supposed to be a man who spent all his life trying to articulate political solutions, economic, and all the architecture of ensuring that we have a future and a generation that we can then be proud of. And obviously you realize that we have completely ostracized that particular sector from any focus or any specificity of development. And that, for me, is a call for concern. The second area where we need is that we need to also industrialize, okay? We need to put a lot of enabling environment in industrialization for this country. We are a consuming nation, for God's sake. We consume everything, okay? And there is no way you can face the reality of what we see in terms of our budgeting deficit without earning foreign exchange. How do you earn foreign exchange? It's only through export. So what do we have to export? The only thing we have to export in this country, as I tell you, is actually faith and churches and the rest of that, because there is absolutely nothing else that goes out of this country that earns us foreign exchange. And for me, it is actually something that calls for serious concern. SMEs are actually comatose because infrastructures that help to support their growth are actually deficit. A lot of them don't even have overhead. Even the diesel, they now have to generate their own power, has now gone up to close to 1,000 naira per litre. That, for me, are the areas that government need to find bailouts, you know, to be able to support. The aviation industry, if you go to Addis, we just mentioned about you. If you go to Addis and you see how the aviation has become the GDP for national growth, you will now ask yourself, what exactly were we doing? Were we sleeping all the time? I tell you, one of the key gaps we have as a country is that we don't do critical thinking. And if you don't do critical thinking and you allow the system to automate itself and you think that some sort of miracles will happen at some way, it is not so. There is no quality that happens by happenstance. You must be deliberate. You must actually marshal them to happen. We must pay attention to production, industrialization, education, and ensure that we focus a lot of attention around reducing all of those leakages in our governance. If we don't do that, we are going to be in serious trouble.
That's very, very interesting.
Indeed.
Well, let me just direct this at you. They call it the Jaguar syndrome, right? A lot of people are leaving, particularly young Nigerians. And we're hearing the federal government saying it's going to do something about it. It's going to stop Nigerians from migrating to other countries through the use of technology and providing job opportunities for young people and all of that. And this is a conversation we've heard over and over again. Do you think this is something that's going to stop anytime soon?
It will only stop when Nigeria becomes a serious-minded country that can provide adequate welfare and security for citizens, that guarantees equal citizenship for all, where the Nigerian dream of being successful and meeting your aspirations or goals and dreams in life can be achieved without you necessarily knowing somebody, but simply knowing something. And where your ethnicity and religion will not be a concrete ceiling against your progress in life. Neither will it also enhance your chances in life. Everything you have to be based on equal citizenship, merit, and competence. Until that is done in Nigeria, you cannot prevent people who are disadvantaged by the current system from moving to saner climes, where you have equal citizenship rights, where those countries, such as the United States of America, the UK, and most of course, Western Europe, Southeast Asia, where there's a national dream, and this national dream has progressively been met, and millions of people have been pulled out of poverty onto the path of prosperity, where they have equal access to the state, where they have equal protection of the state, and where they don't suffer any form of advantage or disadvantage based on race, ethnicity, religion, creed, and all other, identity issues. And that brings back to the question of nation building. We have run away from this issue for so long that we do not seem to realize the importance of first having a nation before any form of development, any, and I repeat, any, including security and welfare, can take place. My colleague had talked about the fact that there are some countries in the world that are not practicing representative democracy, and they are doing well. Because China is a good example, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, and most of the Gulf countries. But there's one thing that's the common denominator between progressive and prosperous liberal democratic countries like as we have in North America and Western Europe, and some of these not so democratic countries, such as we have in the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and some other parts of the world. There's one common denominator. From Saudi Arabia to the United Arab Emirates, and from the United States of America to Canada and UK, all of these countries have achieved nationhood.
Absolutely.
They have been able to harmonize the disparate identities of their various territories into a national identity. So you have Americans. It is possible to be black, to be Asian, to be European, to be Hispanic, to be Indian, and to be American.
Absolutely.
And who become president and vice president.
That's clearly in the case of
in the UK, it is possible to be Pakistani and become the mayor of London.
Absolutely.
It is possible to be Indian and become the prime minister of UK. It is possible to be a German and be the Queen of England. It is possible to be a Greek and be the King of England as we have it today. These are countries that have become nations. In the case of Nigeria, we are still a country of tribesmen of over 1,000 ethnic nationalities, and not a nation of citizens. And so for me, the work that we need to do now should go into nation building critically. It's when you build a nation and you're able to unite a people around a common identity, national identity, and you build citizens out of tribesmen. A citizen is rational. A citizen has a balanced personality. A citizen understands that he is or she is because we are. A citizen would naturally desire for others what he or she desires for himself.
Absolutely.
And so social justice, equity and fairness will come to bear because there's a recognition of our commonality, of our oneness and our similarities. And this is even very easy for Nigeria. Nigeria 62, I wrote an opinion piece that was widely published where I said, look, Nigeria is actually a country that is divided in oneness. Our problem is not a lack of unity diversity. Anybody who is not a Nigerian watching this program from any part of the world will believe that all of us sitting here today are members of the same family.
Yes.
Because we are mono-racial people. I keep making this point. And the constituent peoples of Nigeria, from the east to the west, from the north to the south, have long-standing ancestral, historical, sociological, cultural links that actually present us in reality as evidence-based presentation as members of the same Black African family.
Absolutely.
And so it should not be too difficult for us to unite. And this is the problem we need to begin to resolve. This lack of unity and oneness is Nigeria's major challenge. Not even lack of unity and diversity, because we hardly qualify to be called a diverse country. We're a plural country, a plurality of the same Black African family.
I wish we had time to take more. This conversation is drilling into very interesting corners.
Actually, I just didn't want the conversation to stop.
That we find time to continue this debate. A one-off cry or a one-off shout will not stop this political elite from doing what they want to do. The charge from the Trust TV studio also to the civil society is to also confront this conversation with facts and statistics.
Absolutely.
We must be able to work out what it will cost this nation to go down this lane and begin to put these statistics before their very face and tell them we cannot avoid this. We've had interesting gentlemen in the studio, the director of Program Clean Foundation, and Mr. Moshid Dairu, a public affairs analyst, and Salahuddin, of course, my friend.
Thank you very much.
We hope to see you again. I am Sunday Michael Ogu. Please catch up with whatever we have done this morning on our social media handle for more. Please, let's do this again tomorrow.
And I'm Zainab Bala. See you tomorrow.